Sirs. Creed.
I am a scholar, a prestige scholar. I live the real values. I am competent, disciplined, physically and mentally tough. I respect myself and others. Consistency is my mantra. I believe I will excel every time I commit 100%. I will never quit. I will never surrender.
Charter schools are public schools, and charter schools began in 1991 in Minnesota, and they began sort of as a laboratory experiment. You know, it was thought that there were certain restrictions that traditional public schools had, and that if we could just do some things differently, we could help students to be more successful. And charter schools began to be this outlet for students, administrators, you know, teachers to be more creative, to think outside the box.
Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be the great strong land of love, where never kings connive or tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above.
You don't have to look far when you look at test data to see who the students are that are at the bottom of every category. We're talking about boys, specifically Black and Latino boys. And when we look at the life trajectory for these same boys, we know that it's tragic. You know, we're talking about hopelessness, we're talking about unemployment, we're talking about incarceration, we're talking about homicides. And if our boys are educated, we know that we can change that trajectory.
I like the enthusiasm we have going on. Opportunities, wonderful.
So for us, you know, it was extremely important for us to create an environment where we can foster the type of positive attitudes, the type of motivational expectations, the focus on education that would help these boys be put on a track to college.
All right, I need that energy. This is how we start our mornings. Jordan, kick it.
I got a feeling. I got a feeling, Panthers. I got a feeling. This upper school don't know we the best. Ha!
Woo! Let's go. Oh yeah, you gotta feel it. Come on, you gotta feel it.
Woo-wee, Panthers! Woo-wee, Panthers! Break them! Ha! Break them! Ha! Ha!
Absolutely, the achievement gap can be closed. It takes a lot of hard work. Our teachers, we definitely go the extra mile. It's not like, this is a lifestyle. It's not a job. You can't clock out at 4 o'clock. It's an investment.
I'm a Tuskegee Airman, and when I was young, I wanted to become a pilot. That was my dream. That was my final.
We preach excellence in behavior, academic mastery, and leadership. Respect, responsibility, and these are the values that we build on. I refuse to give them a crutch of, you know, you from there, it's not gonna happen, settle for this. Absolutely not. I think it's giving them a sense of possibility, letting them know, like, no, this is possible. And I think it's gonna go a long way.
We tell our young men, you're no longer ordinary when you come to this school, you're extraordinary now. You know, extraordinary young men have a longer school day. Extraordinary young men, you know, have homework every day. You know, and because you're now extraordinary, you can live up to these things. You know, so when you have your friends back in the neighborhood asking you why you wear that shirt and tie, or why do you go to an all-boys school, it's because you're not ordinary anymore, because you're on the track for college. And that's what our young men understand.
Are you guys ready?
Yes, sir.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
If you're ready, let me get a big fat, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Line it up.
Charter is a choice, right? And, you know, certainly any school is not one size fits all. You know, this is not going to be the perfect environment for every 5th, you know, through 8th grader. And we realize that for the young men that are buying into our philosophy, the parents that are buying into our philosophy, they're going to do well. They're going to excel.
A magnet school essentially is a school that specializes in a specified area. So for example, at our school, the magnet is the arts programs, and that is what attracts students to that program, which is why we got the name magnet. The difference between a magnet school and a charter school is that a magnet school is associated with a school district. So, for example, Cab Calloway School is a Red Clay public school. We just happen to specialize in the arts area, as opposed to the Charter School of Wilmington is not bound by the same regulations of Red Clay School. They're still bound by public legislation, by state legislation, but not the district legislation.
The scores of our students are very, very high, and I do say that that's because our students are creative thinkers. They can think outside the box, they can solve problems. They're not just answering multiple choice questions in a didactic way. We have computers for that now. I think our students have a step way beyond many other schools because they are allowed to relate right and left brain thinking all the time, all day long.
This year we had just over 1,000 applications for fewer than 300 seats, so there's always a waiting list for our school, and it's really difficult. I mean, all of the students still audition. You know, usually magnet schools are able to assess based on whatever it is they're specializing in. In ours, it's all by audition in their arts area. And then from there, we move into that whole lottery portion of where do you live? Are you a Red Clay resident? Do you have a sibling in our school? Are you not a Red Clay resident? And then students are selected through the lottery section there.
And why is that a good example of?
Our purpose here is not to send children into the world as Picassos or Mozart. It's to really infuse the arts into everything we do. My curriculum is exactly the same as any other middle school. However, they tell us what to teach, but they can't tell us how.
Lugubrious, antithesis, copious, capitulate, dubious, sanguine, accolade, vociferous, archaic, men to get matriculate.
I think one thing that I try to do with my kids is I try to make it meaningful to them. You know, when they come to me, they've had their iPod, they've had their Xbox, they've had their Kindle, they've had their computer. And if they come to me and I say, open your textbook to page 35, I probably lost them by the time they get to page 36. So I think a teacher's job today has changed. I'm not saying we're in the business of entertaining, but you definitely have to make your curriculum mean something to the children. That's the slide I want you to read, so act like the teacher. Go stand up there. When I first started, my children were passive. I did all the teaching, and now I allow my children to do most of the interaction. I introduce it, and then they go with it.
So today we're talking about figurative language. Authors use many types of figurative language in order to help the reader visualize.
So the arts is actually an avenue for excelling across the board, and our students are actually ranked second in the state only to the Charter School of Wilmington, and they excel across the board in the math and sciences in all areas.
What clue does the word alliteration give? I think magnet schools are wonderful because children get something that they're interested in. Whether it be math or science, whether it be creative arts, they sign up for something, they've bought into it. You feel, when our kids come here, they feel special. They feel like, wow, this is my school. I was accepted here.
Robust, mollified, chastised, inept, opulent.
Good job.
That was so much better.
Woo!